so we can connect.
Right, cool.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon edition of Think Business Live. I'm looking forward to talking with Keith Weston, the COO for Otus. This is so timely, Keith, and I'm so glad that we're talking today because Otus basically makes teachers' lives and students' lives easier in the classroom, K through 12. And my kids, after a year at home, I have a freshman and a senior in high school, are finally going back to school on Monday. And so today, it's I think it's I can't remember what date it is, but they're going back to 22nd. And it's hard to believe that it's been almost a year. And God bless every teacher in the world who has been teaching via Zoom, which is so difficult. So kudos and many, many thanks to them. But I want to talk about, like any business person that I'm talking to, we're always talking about how to streamline, how to simplify everything. And it sounds like your system is really kind of this all-in-one simple system that gives not only teachers, but students one place to go for everything. So kind of dive into that a little bit.
Right, cool. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
And very, very similar to you. I have a freshman in high school who starts back at school after being out for a year on the 22nd as well.
All right.
Right there with you. I know he's looking forward to getting out of his bedroom.
Yeah. School in bed, I think, has become very normal. So I don't know how my kids are going to do.
I know. Well, we'll see. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the shift to this Zoom instruction, online learning, has been a challenge for everyone, teachers, students, as parents, obviously, but even for your school administrators. And really, one of the things that we found that was spotlighted when all of these school closings happened is that there's really not a lot of consistency between the types of technologies that different teachers are using for different classes. So you have kids who are logging into certain systems for math, another system for science. It causes a lot of fragmentation. And as you can imagine, being able to assemble all of the information that those tools know about kids into like a one story about, hey, how is John doing is almost impossible. So yeah, where Otus was born was actually the classroom well before COVID, but the problem was still very real. Two middle school teachers in the Chicago area, they were really having a challenge. All their kids had devices, but they were using a dozen different technology tools. And it was causing those teachers to be very inefficient. The kids weren't very organized. Parents had very little insight or understanding into how kids were doing. And then maybe most interestingly is school administrators. They don't have access to all these different systems to aggregate data. So it's like, what's the better way to do this? And our view was, instead of being this connective tissue between all of these different things, what if we were to just rebuild all of the tools that we know teachers need to use to grade, to teach lessons, to analyze results and information, and to plan for next steps? What if that could all be done in one spot? And that's where Otus came into play. So a lot of efficiencies for teachers, but it's also getting information in one spot so that people really know how things are going.
But let's talk about that, because it sounds like your client are the school districts, right, or the superintendents of those school districts. And there's so many things, there's so many moving parts right now, more than ever, and change can be very difficult. I think especially for school districts, which is on really just archaic technology in many cases. Some of them, not all of them. And so how do you get them to kind of put this at the top of their list, right? What are the 1 or 2, 3 things of the Otus benefits of why now?
Yeah, well, so you're exactly right. There's a lot of demands on the time and attention of superintendents who are our client. The way that we go into school districts is not saying, those 10 to 12 things that your teachers are using, and that while it's a little fragmented, they know how to use them. Don't do that anymore and just use Otus. We know that would introduce more chaos than efficiency, right? People are
Right.
changing, learning new systems. So when we go into schools, we're always like, all right, what are your current challenges? Well, maybe one of them is we need to know, how our students are doing when on their schoolwork, the things that they do each day, and how that relates to, in Michigan, their
Yeah.
M-STEP assessment. So what does the state test say? What do our everyday activities say? And we want to see how are different groups of kids doing on both of those things. So really they have a data problem. So even though Otus does a lot of things, we say, great, we do a lot of things. We're going to talk about solving this problem for you. Over time, you can grow into your use of Otus.
Yeah.
And so that allows us to say, let's just scratch the itch you have. And then as time goes on, we can start replacing some of those disconnected things. So that's the way we do it. But you're exactly right. Our biggest competitor is not another company, it's change.
Yeah.
Our biggest competitor is change. It's mindset change, it's process change, and that's our biggest competitor.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about mindset for a little bit, as far as just school in general, right? We have teachers whose mindset is all over the board with going back to school, right? Again, God bless the teachers who are, teaching half class, hybrid, in school, out school. I mean, it's wild. But the mindset in the classroom today, I can't comprehend what it's going to be like for my kids next week. Just the mask, the separation, the teachers, the connectivity that the teachers have with the students, and how, as somebody who's educating educators, how does your tool kind of, in a way, help with all of that?
Yeah, well, first things first, what might be unique about us, even though we're a software company, we all believe that the best way to help students in schools are human relationships, like knowing someone. That has nothing to do with technology. That has something to do with just talking to a kid and getting to know them.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how can we allow teachers and administrators to have more time to get to know their kids and provide them with the right resources? And one way to do that is help them be more efficient with their time. Instead of logging into 15 different places, you have one place. But maybe more importantly, having one place where you can, of course, see academic data, but also can see information about their strengths and interests, can also see information about maybe some of their social, emotional, feelings and how they're doing. That is going to allow you to have some very good conversations and really get to know those kids. And so that's where we think technology can help. We can help make sure that those human interactions maybe you have more information to make those more meaningful.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So now let's talk about you for a minute. So you're the COO of Otus.
Yep.
Right. You are you're an educator educating educators. And so I always like kind of diving into the path of the person I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So how did you find yourself here?
Yeah, well,
not on my podcast in general,
or not my basement.
It looks good, your basement. I mean, it doesn't look like you're in a basement.
I should say this is where my wife works.
Yeah.
Where I work would not have such a great background.
It looks good. I mean, it looks
have
really
a lot
good.
of cars hanging.
Yeah.
But it looks nice. So my journey here first of all, I had no idea that I was going to be a COO of any sort of company, and really had no plan on doing anything in education. But I was a musician. And that's what I wanted to be a rock star. That was what my life's goal was. What my dad said, though, is, when you turn 18, you better have health insurance and have a plan for getting out of here. And what I realized is that, that makes a lot of sense. And at the time I was working in an after school program. So I was like, I kind of like the school setting. And also, you have summers off, you have holidays off. This would give me a lot of time to focus on being a musician. So I I went to college to be an elementary school teacher, and as luck would have it, I loved it. I loved the idea of I loved teaching. So I taught third grade, did that for 6 years, and then I kind of the musician thing dream didn't happen, but it was okay because I started falling forward into my education career. So then I became a technology coordinator at the district level. And then my last job in schools was as a principal of a middle school. So I did that for years. During that time, a friend of mine, the drummer of my band, believe it or not, he'd invented this thing called Applitrack, which in Michigan is used pretty much everywhere for people to apply for jobs in schools. And basically he's like, hey, I know the software thing. You have the education background. And it made sense for me to leave working in schools to go work in the technology industry. And then we grew that to be very large. We were servicing 40% of the school districts in the country. And then we sold that to another big, at the time they were small, but they're now a huge company called Frontline Education. And then I learned about Otus because the two of the co-founders were teachers in the district where my kids go to school. Yeah. And so that's my journey,
It's funny. It's funny.
Forward.
Yeah. It's funny how the world, you just got to kind of like surrender a little bit, and it's nobody's path, I always wanted to be a business coach from the time I was 18, but I didn't know it was going to take me, graduating college, starting an internet company, selling that, being a partner in that, getting into commercial real estate, doing as broker for 6 years. After that, running my office for 6 years, going into a company and help restructure for a year. And then
you got my business,
right? So it's kind of like, you never know the twists and turns. I think you just got to kind of follow the path that makes sense, where it feels in alignment with you.
So are you saying that it's very possible that I'll be opening up for Guns N' Roses on their next tour after COVID?
I mean, you could. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't let go of that dream if I were you, right? You never know. I mean, all those old timers from, the 80s, they're still rocking it,
I know. I mean, they still bring it,
Yeah. Are you still playing? What do you play?
I play guitar and bass.
Okay.
I played tuba in high school. Right. I'm 6'6" and I'm a big guy. So obviously the tuba is going to be what I'm going to be drawn to. But yeah, I still play when I have an opportunity.
All right, good. So let me ask you this. So, in the light of that, and you have a son in high school, and I have a son that's about to go to college, and many kids are graduating college today, really thinking like, what am I going to do? And you look at pre-COVID studies that were showing that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist don't exist today. And so COVID, in my opinion, accelerated that 5, maybe 6 years. Right. And so what advice do you give maybe to the person who's aspiring to be a rock and roll star or whatever they're going to be, graduating college today?
Yeah, well, so I've a couple thoughts on that. I think my biggest bit of advice is do something you love, and maybe that requires you to go to college and get a degree or an advanced degree. Maybe it involves you going to a trade school and learning to do something that you want to do is without college. But it's obviously find something that you really enjoy doing, and then realize that just because you enjoy doing it when you're 18 years old doesn't mean you're going to enjoy doing it when you're 27 years old or when you're 42 years old and 6 years old and things change. Yeah. But I always am a fan of Daniel Pink. I always think that the most resilient jobs are going to be the ones that can't be automated. Things that involve creativity, problem solving, relationships, things like that. So I guess that would be my recommendation to someone who's 18 is like, what do you want to do? And if you don't know what you want to do, figure out at least the path that's going to give you the most options. Yeah. Whether it's college or trade school or whatever.
I love it.
All right, we have examples of people. So that you come out of college with $120,000, in students' loans or debts or something.
Minimum. That's assuming you go to state, right?
Okay, right. Yeah. Or you go to these boot camps for coding that cost $30,000. It takes you a year, and you go out and you make $100,000 right out of the gate. I mean, to me, I think there has a lot of thought has to be given to alternative ways to get where you want to go. Sometimes it's college, sometimes it isn't.
Well, and I think we're going to see a lot of that because I think there's a majority of the world that cannot afford college, and especially, if you go to college, out of state or in state, and then you go to get your master's, you go to law school.
Yep.
I mean, medical school for sure. I mean, you're looking at so much debt. So I think we're going to see a lot of people who are going to those trades and making a great living and starting companies that are going to change the next decade, frankly.
And that's the thing is like when people say, yeah, I totally agree. When people say, there's jobs that don't exist, I agree that there's jobs that don't exist. But I also agree that I don't think it's like people that are in our generation that really know what those are. It's the kids who are, coming up right now. They're the ones who are going to transform the way we think. It's really hard for me to say, we have to trust the next generation. They're going to take us to the next level.
Well said. Let's talk a little bit more about your platform. Your clientele, like we were saying, are the teachers, superintendents, et cetera.
Yeah.
How do you raise their awareness and wake them up to, so they're open to, listening and hearing about your product? So talk a little bit about, where your ideal client's pain is and how you're the solution and what the result is.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's pre-COVID and post-COVID. So let's talk about post-COVID because that's just the reality. The biggest pain that maybe you've seen as a parents, but we know that pretty much anyone who has kids at home is that the ways that technology is used in schools right now is very cumbersome and very fragmented. And so what that results in is parents complaining to teachers, to principals, to superintendents. Can we just have one system where I can go to see how my kids are doing? I don't know what's the login for all these things. So right now, a big top of mind thing for us is consolidating tools and having that one platform. That tends to resonate with the people who buy Otus. And then the other thing is, when kids are coming back to school, we need to literally and figuratively, take the temperature of where are they academically.
Yeah.
They've been out of school for a year. And so one application of Otus is using it for what we call common or benchmark assessments. Just periodic, every third grader is going to take this assessment on these skills so that we know where kids are, so that we can identify where those gaps are and catch them up. So that's another thing that's resonating. So it's both streamlining things, and it's also a very accurate way to know how your kids are doing so that you're not going to rely on some major test, state test that might not even happen this year.
Yeah. All right, good. Well said. All right, ready for a quick speed round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Favorite book and why?
My favorite book is Drive by Daniel Pink.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that is because I always like thinking about what motivates people and maybe more importantly, what does not motivate people.
Yeah. I love it. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Never miss an opportunity to keep your mouth shut.
That's a great one. That is a great one.
That's my wife's grandpa.
Last question. One thing everyone needs to do in 2021 to get and stay more educated.
Listen.
It's good. And tell everybody your wife's grandfather's quote again.
Never miss an opportunity to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that's great. Keith, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Nice to meet you, John.
Tell everybody again who your ideal client is and how they can connect with you and learn and or purchase your product.
Yeah. So to learn more about Otus, otus.com. Our target market is school leaders, public, private, independent, who are looking to have a more holistic view of how kids are doing so that they can help make the best decisions for their schools.
All right. Think community, if Keith can help or anybody who can help him, please reach out, otus.com, otus.com. Keith Westman, thanks very much, man. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, John. Really nice meeting you. Take care.